Hello and welcome back and Happy New Year. I ended up closing out 2023 with a winter illustration of one of my D&D characters' companions sharing some crumbs with a little robin. I've been exploring my D&D characters and their companions and hopefully the party members soon as well in my sketchbook quite a lot the last month or so, and I ended up thumbnailing an idea for this scene, and I liked the idea of it, so I did a few iterations of different thumbnails, different positions, different orientations, and ended up settling on an idea. So I did a full draft sketch, which you just saw. I really liked it, so I thought I would transfer it by eye to watercolor paper and do an ink and watercolor illustration of it. And I switched out the supplies a little bit this time. The Pentel Pocket Brush Pen is a firm favourite of mine for inking. I love inking with this pen, but I've not really used it that much for watercolour and ink illustrations the last year, pretty much the whole of 2023. I've mainly been using it for sketchbooking whenever I've picked it up within the last year. But for some reason, when I came to inking this, the pocket brush pen was really calling out to me, so I thought I'd just go with the flow and use it. I did keep a few other pens nearby just in case I felt like I needed to use something else, but I only ended up using a 0.2mm fineliner for a couple of the details here and there, and those two pens got me through the whole thing. I did have to adjust a little bit to getting used to using the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen on watercolor paper again. I forgot just how long it takes for the ink to dry on cotton paper. I had to be very, very patient with letting the ink dry in comparison to some of the other brush pens I've been using this year, which is why you'll see me move around quite a bit where I'm inking, is because I'm waiting for sections to dry for quite a long time, but we made it work. The character in this illustration is called Kermit, and he's part of a group of fungi that I've been designing in my sketchbooks recently. I am deviating from the actual creatures we came across in the campaign, and instead I'm making a fungi species of creatures instead of the original creatures we came across, because they are very, very different from the D&D lore of those creatures. So in our campaign, the campaign with my character Eillenna, I came across a lot of campestry, and if you know D&D and you know D&D lore and you know campestry, you'll know that the creature that I am drawing is not a campestry. Campestries are Feywild mushroom creatures, but they do not have arms and legs, and in D&D lore it specifically says that they do not have arms and legs. But when I came to designing these characters for my sketchbook and hopefully more illustrations like this, and maybe some comics or something, maybe, I ended up changing out what they are because I wanted to give them arms and legs in order to be able to be a bit more expressive with them, especially for storytelling effects. So I don't refer to them as campestry anymore because they simply aren't now. They don't follow D&D lore. But that aside, this is Kermit, and I've also designed Poison Toad, and Poison Toad was the first mushroom creature we came across, and Kermit was the second. So it was important to me to come up with what these two looked like first and explore different expressions, poses, and interactions with the two of them in my sketchbook. I think I showed one spread of those in my previous video on my favorite art supplies for 2023 in the sketchbook section in the bit where I show my current art creation sketchbook. I'm pretty sure I showed one of the spreads of the two of these characters and some different poses and interactions with them. And it's been a lot of fun, and that's what ended up inspiring the thumbnail that ended up being this. The actual interaction in this illustration didn't happen in the campaign. It's just something that I came up with because of all the sketching I'd been doing. I'm definitely very interested in illustrating some of the things that's happened in the campaign, and also other interactions as well during other D&D sessions that I've been in, and also different multiplayer experiences in video games as well. I'm very interested in illustrating and maybe dipping my toes into comics, possibly. It's something I'd like to explore this year in 2024, is doing more projects and figuring out the things that I enjoy doing. I'm also interested in exploring storytelling more with some of my own original stories, original characters. I have a deep love of folklore and legends, as some of you know, but I also really love coming up with stories, especially in the fantasy realm, sometimes dipping into sci-fi a little bit, but especially in the fantasy realm. And I've been exploring that a bit more as well, and just letting myself really experiment and have a little adventure with my creativity. And I really want to take that into 2024 and go forward with it and really have a good, thorough adventure, I guess you could say, with my creativity and interests. To go back to the illustration here, though, for a moment, I had a few intentions with this going into it. And one was that I wanted to have areas with line art and without line art. And I knew for the background, I wanted to explore having no line art in it, which I ended up using 2 layers of watercolor for. I used a very, very heavy granulating base, which was with cerulean blue chromium and PV19 quinacridone rose, and a little bit of indanthrone blue, and that heavily separates out into this sort of purpley pink and cerulean blue. And then I added an indanthrone kind of indigo mixture on top, using blues and browns to make a really deep indigo blue. And that was just it that for the background. I ended up also exploring another thing that I had intended as well at the start of this, which was only using 1 layer of watercolor for everything else. So not for the background, of course, but for everything else, using 1 layer of watercolor, and then doing any further gradients, shading, detailing on top of that with color pencil. I've mixed watercolor and color pencil plenty of times in 2023, and it's something that I'm still exploring and figuring out how and if I want to use that combo. And for this, I wanted to explore using just 1 base tone in watercolor and then doing almost everything else on top in color pencil. And I explored that a little bit with the Kelpie illustration that I did, but I wanted to keep exploring a little bit more. So I started by deepening the background and having a gradient, darker at the top, getting lighter to the base. So I didn't end up having any color pencil towards the horizon, and then lots and lots of color pencil layers further to the top. And I used mainly indanthrone blue and indigo color pencils for that effect. And then everything else, I was using a mixture of color pencils that were very, very close to the initial layer, and then deepening things or adding details. In the case of the mushroom, I added a few extra details in colour pencil. You can see most of the change in colour pencil on the cap here on Kermit. So his design is based on toadstools, but I made his cap more of an orangey red base tone. And then I like to deepen that down to a red, and then in the shadow areas, depending on the lighting, I deepen it down to burgundies and sort of really, really deep magenta tones. So you can see most of that shift caused by colour pencil, especially on Kermit, and also with some of the shading on Kermit as well. It is also interesting to see in the colour penciling stage just how textured this paper is as well. I've mentioned it a few times in other illustrations recently too, but you can tell that this is a very, very textured hot press paper. It says it's hot pressed, but it's definitely got a roughness to it, and that comes out heavily when you're doing colour pencil on top. But it's just something to bear in mind when working on this paper. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You just need to have particular expectations with the materials that you have. I don't know about you though. Let me know in the comments what paper you prefer to use when you're doing anything with colour pencil. I know not everyone necessarily uses watercolour paper, but in general, do you prefer smoother paper or do you prefer really rough paper for colour pencil? Let me know. I also want to take a moment as well as we're wrapping up here to thank everyone for their support this past year. I am blown away by the fact that right at the end of 2023, I ended up getting partnered on YouTube, which is amazing. I am so grateful to all of you who have been subscribing, liking, commenting, and chatting with me in the comment section. It's been amazing this past year, and I've been really, really enjoying filming and sharing my art and discussions on art supplies and everything with you all. And yeah, I'm just really grateful and want to thank you all. I don't really know how to say it other than that. So yeah, thank you. I remember doing a poll ages ago now on the community tab, asking people what length of video they preferred. And for all of the people that really, really love long format videos, I'm going to be uploading an hour-long extended cut of real-time footage of this illustration, probably in a couple days' time. So keep an eye out for that for all of you that love longer videos to have on. And now you can see the finished illustration. Thank you to everyone that has made it up to this point, and I hope that you all have a lovely new year. Let me know if you have any art goals for 2024 in the comment section. It'd be very weird if you could access my description. Let me know in the comments what you have going on in 2024 and your plans and your goals. I'd love to know and to chat with you about them as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!